Alright, I have to talk about one of my favorite Atari 2600 games, and that is Circus Atari, which I actually happen to have not only the box, the cartridge, and the manual for, but I somehow actually have another alternative manual. I actually don't know what the difference is between these manuals, but I decided to keep them both since they were different. I mean, it's the same information in both of them. It's just that one of them's got a slightly different shape. I just assume that one is an came earlier than the other. But I don't really know which manual came first because they both have the same copyright dates in it. But anyway, this is Circus Atari, a game where you basically control like a teeter-totter, where clowns bounce back and forth and pop the balloons. And I don't even know how to explain why I like this game so much, or why I get so addicted to this game. I plugged in the system to capture some footage, and I literally played for over an hour. And maybe just by talking about it, I can maybe think about why that is. Well, for starters, this is a paddle-based game, and paddle-based games really shine on the Atari 2600 because the paddles were standard controller. So the games that came out, they could just easily say, oh, use the joystick or use the paddles. And primarily it's because of Pong being so popular at the time. They wanted to include the paddles so you could play, Video Olympics, aka Pong. So, but there are a lot of other games that came out that use the paddles, and they're very hard to emulate. I mean, you could emulate it on your computer, and you could try and use your mouse, but it's really not the same. And especially the compilations that come in for other systems, like the Atari Anthology, things like that, they really don't have the same effect. But let's get back to the game. Circus Atari is actually based on an arcade game called Circus. I didn't know that for the longest time, and it wasn't until I started looking into MAME in like the late 90s where I saw the connection. And I've actually seen the arcade machine at Galloping Ghost Arcade, and I've played it one or two times, but I'll honestly say I like Circus Atari a lot better. The graphics are simpler, sure, but the gameplay seems a whole lot faster and a whole lot smoother. And as you play it and you're getting faster and faster, the gameplay can get fast and frantic. And you can actually lose yourself into the game. It's kind of one of those games where you can zone out and just stare at the screen and nothing else is around you. For as simple as the game is, it just brings you in. Now, like a lot of other Atari 2600 games, there are several different modes. The main mode I like to play is really just the first mode, and that is as you clear out a line of balloons, it just comes back, and if you can manage to clear out the top line of balloons, you earn a whole boatload of bonus points, and I think usually you earn an extra life, or maybe is it by points that you earn an extra life? Let me check that out in the manual really quick. No, it is every time you pop an entire row of red balloons, you receive an extra clown, or turn. So yeah, every time you clear the very top row, you earn an extra life. And I actually love clearing out the top row because of the sound effects that follow it. It's like the score is trying to keep up and it can't quite, and it's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But that's not to say that the first game mode is the only one I like. There's 8 game modes in total, but games 7 and 8 are solely for 2 players, and all that happens is that when the players alternate, the balloons stay the way they are, instead of giving each player their fresh set of balloons, or whatever balloons they had on their previous turn. All the game modes are pretty straightforward, and it doesn't really deviate that drastically, other than game mode 2, at 2 and 4 having the addition of barriers, which can actually hinder or help you. You would think that just the barriers being there would be harder to pop the balloons. But once you get past the barrier, it's possible for your guy to just keep bouncing on those barriers and stay up higher longer. So it is kind of a trade-off, and it is fun to play with the barriers sometimes. And then there's game modes 3 and 4, which is the same as game modes 1 and 2, but you can actually break through the balloons. Instead of each balloon you popping send you straight down, you actually go through the balloons and you pop as many as you can. And then there's game modes 5 and 6, which are actually pretty hard compared to the first couple of game modes, because the balloons don't replenish until you pop all of them. And usually what'll happen is that there'll be a couple red ones at the top, and you'll just be going forever, bouncing your clowns up, back and forth, trying to pop that last balloon. But like I say, sometimes it just puts you in a trance. Now, one thing I might have neglected to mention was the fire button on the paddle will actually flip-flop the teeter-totter around. So not only do you have to kind of estimate where your clown's going to be, but if he's going to go in an area where you can't hit that teeter-totter, you can flip it around and then be able to catch him. Or sometimes if he's coming down really fast, you just want to flip it really quickly so you don't have to move it so much. But you could, at least in these moments where you're having a happy trigger finger, you don't know if you should flip it, you flip it, and then you realize you shouldn't have flipped it, and then you flip it again, and it could lead to a really messy situation. But like I said, I get really addicted to this game, and like I said, I live for just clearing out that top row of balloons, so you could hear that really weird sound effect. And like I said, when I was playing this, just to capture footage for it, I could not stop, and I wound up playing this for over an hour. And that's all I could really say about Circus Atari. So, if you do have an Atari 2600, I highly recommend this game. If you've never played it before, it's worth getting a pair of paddles if you don't have the paddles. To me, this is my favorite Atari 2600 game. It's definitely my favorite paddle game. I know at least one other person on YouTube that agrees with me, and that's Atari Leaf, and I know he's watching this video because it's on Circus Atari. But, yeah, I can't say enough about this game. Now, if you were to emulate it, it might be okay, you know, with using the mouse, but if you like playing it with the mouse emulated, or even with a D-pad, you gotta play it with the paddle controller on the original system. There ain't nothing like it. Thanks everyone for watching. See y'all next time. Bye.